Have we wondered what's the meaning of the baptism we have received? St. Paul speaks about being buried with Christ in order to be raised with Christ. But what does it really mean? The baptism that happens once in a lifetime for a few minutes, and then we might remember it from the pictures we receive from our parents, depending on what stage the baptism came about. And then this set of rituals that are meant to be discovered. It's like a beautiful gift of a high value, very nicely wrapped up, but now needs to be discovered. And that's the Christian living all throughout, to find out the great gift of baptism that is contained in this small little seed that is planted in our soul. And once it's irrigated, taken care of, nourished, it grows as a big tree. Please God. But in order to know what to do with that, we really need to get a deeper understanding of the value and importance of the baptism. In my former parish, one family told me that only after the baptismal preparation they realized the importance that they are committing themselves into. More importantly, God sets himself on the side of the one who commits himself to make sure that the divine life will flow. But to understand the dignity, the value, the greatness of our Christian calling, we need a man of God. We need a prophet. Today, the crisis in the church, it's not so much about a shortage of priests or the religious. That's a facade. Deep within, the crisis is no prophets. What does it mean? No real prophets. Abraham Heschel, a very important Jewish rabbi, teaches that he's the man who gives his body, his entire being to God, and God speaks through him for the people of God, but not in the sense of saying, look, something bad will happen to you, or pronouncing oracles that are gloom and doom. No, the prophet will say, starting the phrase, if you follow the Lord over here, this will happen to you. Then, if you ignore the voice of God and follow your own path, this will happen to you. You, who are parents, said many times to your kids, if you hang out with a wrong crowd, this and that will happen to you. That was a prophetic oracle. You see the situation, you discern, and then you make a statement that is meant to echo, resound in the person. However, to get the prophet in life, it's one of the greatest gifts God can give you here on earth. A man who actually will shake you up, maybe even spank you, always out of good for your salvation and your well-being. A prophet will help us to set our priorities straight, and that's a big thing. Unfortunately, we are constantly prone to set our priorities in a wrong way. What is only a little important, we make it a big deal. And what is of paramount importance, we set it down in the list of the things that are of value. We don't even realize it. It's done unconsciously because we are influenced by a lot of currents coming left and right, and often confused and taken on a wrong path. We don't even perceive that we gave priorities in our lives to the things that are not supposed to be important. A friend of mine, Prix, was telling me that he went to a classroom in his Catholic school, and he asked, "What's the most important thing in life?" All smiling, happy to ask the kids. They raise their hands. "Yes, please." "To be good." Well, that's an outcome. Not really. Okay, so then he rephrased it. "What's the most important commandment?" "To obey the parents." "Honey, that's the fourth one." "Oh, which one is the first one?" "Exactly, which one is the first one?" "Which one is the first one?" "Oh, we forgot that there is someone called God." "Oh, God, of course, God." "Yeah, of course, God is always God." But even this kind of rhetoric of trying to make sure that God is set on the 2nd, 25th, or 119th location, place in our lives, it's not gonna play out well. You probably heard sometimes when there was a rocket launched from Canaveral in Florida, and then it blew up, and then the scientists say there was just a microscopic, very little tiny miscalculation. Yeah, but the launch never turned out right. Small miscalculation. Everything was right, but small miscalculation. Like I remember once we are organizing a concert, small miscalculation, everything is ready to go. Whoops, they forgot the cables to connect. Well, the cables are meant to be connected. If they are not connected properly, brothers and sisters, you're not going to hear anything. What is the role of a prophet is to help us continually to set the priorities straight. Because the launching of our lives can go in a wrong direction. And here, the priorities need to be set right, which is God is the most important thing. There are people who studied the New Testament, specifically the Gospels, inside out, and they said, it is incredible that Jesus, who was a Jew 2,000 years ago, set in the concrete historical, socio-economical setting where the family was of utmost importance. It was your protection. It was your sustenance. It was everything. And yet, he didn't speak that much of a family and never gave such a critical importance as we think he should have. Do you know why? Because the danger is that the family can turn out to be an idol, a substitute for God. So when Jesus Christ speaks these words that we just heard in today's gospel, whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Wait a minute. This absolutely doesn't make sense. You're out of your mind. Because we love our parents, we love our kids, we are so much engaged in our families. How would he even dare to say the words like that? And for a long time, I didn't get it. I thought it was excessive until I started understanding, seeing what can actually happen if the role of a family, as important and critical as it is, doesn't fulfill its role, which means connecting a child with God. Do you remember when Jesus Christ was 12 years old and he traveled with his family over to Jerusalem for the festival and he got lost in the temple? Then after 3 days, Joseph and Mary found him in the temple. "Son, why have you done this to us?" the Blessed Mother says. "Your father and I, with anxiety," just think about if you have ever lost a kid for 3 days, you're going out of your mind. "We've been looking for you." And Jesus, only 12 years old, said, "Didn't you know," implying you should have known, "that I am in my Father's house?" That's the Father. Oh, wow. Which means Joseph and Mary did a very good job in pointing out to Jesus that his real father is up there. They understood it was a prophetic gesture. They connected the dots only later on. They knew that this relationship that they were supposed to help Jesus Christ to build actually happened. And so, what is the critical aspect in our Christian living? To love God above everything else. Because if the Lord is not number one, issues happening. And Jesus Christ is forewarning. If you love the father and mother more than me, you are not worthy of me. To say, look, better not to follow me. Either you make me number one, or better change a religion. Either I'm the most important, or it's not even worthy, because you will be disappointed. You'll be frustrated. All the expectations and our projections that we assign to God are not gonna turn out right, and we'll be frustrated saying, how come you did not do this or that I expected you to do? And Jesus will say, we never talked about that. You assign certain ambitions to me that were not supposed to turn out right. But this loving father and mother, let me give you some ideas that really enlightened me. As important as the family is, oftentimes I have proofs of it. The parents were detriment for their kids to live their faith well. Sounds strange. From my own personal life, my good childhood friend who was struggling in his personal life, we were going to church together, to the community together. His mom very effectively pulled him out from going to church, saying, look, just occasionally, whenever you have some time. Just the important thing is that you carry on studying. And my friend listened to his mom. If you saw how his life turned out after that, a total disaster. Till today. He's not even involved in the faith, forget it. But it was critical that at that point, his mom became an idol in a sense. I know 3 priests who told me that their greatest obstacle in discovering the priestly vocation were their parents. Even one of them told me that when he went back to Italy, his father took the scissors and cut off his passport for him not to travel back to the seminary. It was a long journey. Only later the parents found out that they were fighting against God. But the dangerous part is, if the parents prevail, because they could sort of exert some pressure, and then things will go down. And afterwards, what have I done? Look, if St. Francis of Assisi had never opposed his father, he would have remained in Assisi in the 13th century, running his dad's fabric shop, and probably he would have been forgotten that very generation. And instead, 800 years later, we know about him. We still remember him. And thanks to St. Francis embracing the life God had for him, huge miracles and the evangelization of the medieval Europe and beyond happened. Even out of curiosity, I went online and I checked who of the saints had difficult relationship with their parents. There are quite few of them. Many of them had to walk out, not because they hated their parents, but because they loved God and His call and word above everything else. And that's critical, to love the Lord above absolutely everything. How oftentimes the parents transmit even the values that are not evangelical, if they are not rooted in the Lord. But then we can reverse it, because the Lord says, the one who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. That's another set of things. I'll give you a story to actually drive the point through. A son lives with his parents, taking advantage of the parents' pension. Time is passing. He's not picking up a job. He's growing older. Just chilling, not involved in anything. Hey, that's about time that you kick him out of the house. And the parents, it's a real story, at least I saw in 2 occasions. Oh no, let him be there. And God, what should I do in this situation? The mother prayed. There was a retreat in the parish. She went to talk to the retreat master, who told her out front, get rid of your son of your house. He's a parasite. He's ruining your account. He's ruining your lives. Oh, I cannot do that. My boy. All right. She ignored what she had been told. Years later, she was grieving over that fact, because she loved her little affections and some connections without having a courage of saying, look, this is no longer your place. You need to go out. But to say that, it requires a lot of courage, a lot of inner strength, and ability to say, look, what's the most important thing is God. You come second, not the other way around. And especially when the parents make idols of their kids and beyond, look, it's a one long ordeal, because your kid is not going to turn out the way you want and will disappoint you one way or another. Happened even in my own personal family, and I can speak about it a long time. I've seen it firsthand. We can't believe that others don't fulfill our expectations, our longings, our dreams. Not by chance, Prophet Jeremiah says, cursed be the man who trusts in another man. He's like a tree planted in the wilderness, that basically will wither. God doesn't want that, but He wants us, helped by the prophetic word, to set the priorities straight, putting God first and His word and His teaching, that everything will turn out right. As a friend of mine, a priest, was telling me that when he was a kid, his parents were teaching him one consistent thing contained in one phrase, which was, look, put God first and His word, the relationship with Him, and everything else will work out. This friend of mine, he heard it day in and day out, constantly. Until when he grew up, he understood that what his parents showed and the way they lived, put God first in your life. Make Him the priority of your life, and He will guide you on the right path for you. That was a phrase being taught, being transmitted, of setting the priorities straight. To conclude, one of my former parishioners was telling me, once she found out her whole family was falling apart, gradually, looking especially how the kids were going, she went to the Blessed Sacrament Chapel. She knelt down and poured her heart in front of the Lord right there with many tears, like Anna in the first book of Samuel, who poured out her soul in front of the Lord, saying, please help me, what should I do, because I see everything is falling apart. Shortly after, God sent her a prophet, a man of God, who, guiding her, as she recounts, at first things got worse. And she thought, wait a minute, I thought things should get better. No, first they get worse, you will get the pushback, but only later on you see the fruit of your choice of setting God first in your life. That's why Jesus Christ says, if you welcome the prophet because he's a prophet, which means you adhere, you welcome the word that he sets in front of you, knowing that this is God's word, the reward will be what? As this lady till today recounts, my kids retained the faith, kept the faith. Our lives were spared, and I'm thankful to God that today I'm reaping the fruit of receiving the prophetic oracle in my life. Brothers and sisters, if you are desiring in your life to be set on the right path, ask God from the bottom of your heart to send you a prophet, a person who will speak difficult word, oftentimes painful one, but always for our benefit and of those around us, and ultimately we'll be able to see the salvation. This is what we need nowadays in our parish family, in our diocese, in our Catholic Church. The prophets who will say things no matter what, even painfully, truthfully, with a sheer truth, as we heard in the opening prayer, that spare us from the darkness of error and set us in the truth, and only the truth can set us free.